viewers and viewresses, my name is General Red Strategist and welcome back to So You're Being Hunted, episode 631. That felt a little bit garbled, didn't it? Well, it's another podcast style episode, ladies and gentlemen. In case you're wondering, we are technically on the same map as last time. We're just now at the West Island, since I cleared out the Centre Island last time. Now, it's actually a Thursday evening, as when I record this. Work's done for the day, and it's been an interesting sort of work day and all that. I've been spending it mainly just going in meetings, accumulating sources for a proposed new seminar and things like that. But I'm sure you don't want to hear about that because that's all boring work-related stuff. No, something actually that is quite interesting, and it's part of the reason actually I wanted to do this podcast-style episode, is, well, once again it sort of relates to some of my not YouTube viewing habits. It relates to YouTube though, a video that I was sort of recommended recently, and I did watch it out of a sort of morbid curiosity and then instantly regretted doing so. But you know how in the past, in my So You're Being Hunted series, I've talked about subjects like critical thinking, for example, you know, how to be a critical thinker, whatever else have you, stuff like that. Well, consider this topic of conversation for this one kind of in the same vein as all that, because this video that I basically saw, that basically got suggested to me and which I watched, it was a YouTube short. I can't remember the name of the channel or the precise title of the video, but in essence it's basically sort of like a short YouTube short where it was along the lines of Gen Z are really dumb, part 4, something like that. It was basically to that effect, this title. And of course, as soon as I sort of looked at that title, I immediately thought, oh god, right, what is this? This is going to be some really questionable freaking video, probably, where the presenter asks some silly questions to try and make out that people of a certain generation are stupid. And sure enough, that's exactly what it was. It's basically the presenter going up to a few random Gen Z individuals and asking them, what is Adolf Hitler's first name? That's the exact phrasing, or essentially that's the phrasing he used. Basically it was to the effect of, what is Adolf Hitler's first name? And yes, they said, the presenter said Adolf Hitler, gave his full name. And then you watch, obviously, the people who he's asking the question sort of sit there, squirm, as though, you know, and then it's like, oh, look how dumb they are. I've literally given them the answer, and they don't even know it. And I mean, okay, the video is one thing, and it's probably just a joke, but what sort of got me was some of the comments people leave on videos like that, where it's immediately like, oh, Gen Z is so dumb, oh, young people are so stupid, you know, and then it's even like ones who are spinning it into just this massive political diatribe about how, oh, we shouldn't give the vote to dumb people, only certain groups in society should have the vote, oh, democracy's bad, we should have authoritarianism, stuff like this. And a lot of it, I think, is just teenage edgelords who, you know, think they know everything when clearly they don't. But it really just, I was just like shaking my head at the sort of quality of the comments on that video, and I was thinking to myself, do you not see how you've kind of fallen hook, line and sinker for a clickbaity video that is obviously designed to wind people up? Like, do you not stop to think about that? Do you not stop to think about, you know, the fact that this is hardly a very scientific survey of Gen Z? Come on, let's be scientific about this. How many people do you think there are in the world who fit into the Gen Z category, whatever you want to call it? Freaking millions of them, right? Millions and millions and millions. Because we're not just talking about people in America here. We're talking people freaking worldwide. People all over the shop. And so you're seriously saying that based on a 30-second fucking video where you've seen about 4 people struggle to answer the question, you're seriously telling me that's a representative sample and you can actually make that conclusion that the entirety of Gen Z is dumb? No. No, mate. It's fucking stupid. If you seriously think that, no offence, but you're kind of not exactly showing yourself to be a paragon of intelligence either, are you? Let's be very frankly honest about it. That's the thing, you know. I think it's kind of indicative of a wider sort of thing, not just related to that video I saw, but I feel like there's a lot of videos on YouTube which have a similar vein to that, where it's like people going up to random people on the street and asking them stupid questions that are clearly designed to confuse, or are clearly designed to be like lead-in questions, or questions that are clearly designed to sort of try and produce a gotcha moment. And it's ridiculous. It really is. And you think to yourself, that is not the scientific survey at all. Stop trying to make grand pronouncements about whole groups of people based on stupid anecdotal videos like that, where you haven't even done it scientifically. Because if you wanted to do it scientifically, A, your question wouldn't be, what is Adolf Hitler's first name? It would be, what is Hitler's first name? Because by asking them, presumably, because the thing is, like, I would wager, if I was to go in the street and ask that question, what is Adolf Hitler's first name? If I was to phrase it like that, I think a lot of people probably actually would get it wrong, not because they're dumb, but because the question itself is actually kind of confusing, because it makes you second guess yourself, because it makes you sit there probably and think, wait, is it not Adolf? Does he have another name? Because the thing is, there's tons of people out there in history who, have often been referred to not by their first name, and then you research them and you discover that actually they had a bigger name and all that. The biggest example that always comes to my mind is an author who I've talked about before, the author of the Redwall books, Brian Jakes. I've talked about him before in So You're Being Hunted. His actual name was James Brian Jakes, so Brian was actually his middle name, not his first name. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, a question like that, what is Adolf Hitler's first name, I think kind of relies upon confusing the person you're asking and getting them to second guess themselves, which is why it's not a fair question to ask, I would argue. Because, like I say, you're going to confuse some people, you're going to make them second guess themselves, and basically you're just sort of forcing them into a particular box. And the thing is, if you want to be scientific about it, also, when you're editing the video together, I'd be curious to know, the guy who made that video, did he only ask the 4 people in the video, or actually, were there loads of other people he asked? And if so, why have they not been shown in the video? And I'm not saying, the excuse for that is not just because it's a friggin' YouTube short, meaning it's only of limited time, because that video still had to be edited and put together once it had been recorded. So, if he asked more people than were actually shown in the video, then why did he not showcase other people who he asked? It's like Michael Shermer says in that TED Talk video that I think I've referred to before, about why humans sometimes believe silly things. In science, if you're doing science properly, you can't just look at the data that, reinforces your pre-existing bias or position. You've got to look at the whole data set. You've got to find the evidence that supports your argument, but you've also got to take into account the evidence that doesn't. And then you arrive at a conclusion. You revisit your hypothesis. You revisit your pre-existing notion of how the world works, and you seriously sit down and think, okay, do I need to change this? In light of the fact that actually there's quite a balance of evidence. So there's that. And there's also the fact that if you were truly being scientific about that, you wouldn't just ask random people. You'd actually calibrate your sample, and you'd make sure it's a fairly big sample with a good sort of even spread, I would say, across different groups. Because the thing is, Gen Z/Gen Z is not a single homogeneous category, is it? Even within that, you're going to have lots of variations, There might be variations between, say, Gen Z boys as opposed to Gen Z girls. There might be variations, let's say, between Gen Z individuals from certain ethnic or cultural backgrounds. There might be variations in terms of whether your Gen Z individual comes from, say, a affluent, high-income household and has therefore had, great sort of educational opportunities, versus, say, a Gen Z individual who comes from a more economically deprived background who maybe hasn't had great educational opportunity. So basically what I'm saying is, you can't just pronounce an entire generation of people dumb based on the answers of a tiny, tiny little sample size of random people. If you're going to truly sample it, you need a much, much bigger sample size. And within that sample, I'd say you need a good, sort of decent, even spread of people from different socio-economic categories and whatever else have you. because then, you know, you might be able to measure variations, things like that, and you may actually just arrive at a more nuanced and interesting picture, putting it like that. But like I say, I'm using obviously that video of Gen Z being dumb and all that as the example. But truth is, like I say, there's lots of other videos I feel of a similar bent on YouTube, but just, you know, sometimes like lambasting different groups of people. Like, Lord knows, there's probably like ones, for instance, from so-called pickup artists, and probably from people who are basically borderline incels. There's probably ones like that which are basically the same but being really critical of women, for example, where they basically just go on the street and they, you know, deliberately approach women who probably aren't the smartest or brightest and just sort of use that as their sample instead of going and looking for a whole spread of different, you know, different women from different backgrounds and whatever else have you. And similarly, there's probably friggin', you know, I would wager, and this is kind of depressing, but I would wager it's the truth, there's probably people, for example, from fucking, you know, racist points of view who probably do the same with people from ethnic minorities, things like that. But ladies and gentlemen, that is why critical thinking is so important, so you can recognise these videos and you can, you know, recognise the kind of bullshit that's going on in them, to put it that way. The sort of bullshit techniques in terms of relying on tiny sample sizes that have not been carefully calibrated. The techniques where they, you know, edit the footage together so it only shows certain responses or certain viewpoints, and it doesn't actually show a very representative sample at all. Where it shows basically only instances that back up the video maker's preconceived biases, and instead doesn't take into account any sort of challenging data or evidence or anything like that. Those are things to watch out for, ladies and gentlemen, because there are some, you know, tricksy people on YouTube who aren't exactly the most truthful, to put it that way. Shock and horror. People on the internet might lie or make stuff up. Shock and horror. You shouldn't be surprised by it though, should you, ladies and gentlemen? Because it is... I mean, it's not exactly a big revelation, you know? There's a lesson in that, ladies and gentlemen. You know, hopefully you take away the key points from within that. Just in terms of what kind of things to watch out for with some of these silly content, for fuck's sake. Are you kidding me? Iron sights, please. There we go. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck me. There's so many of you. What the heck? Good lord. That's not what we need at all. Why are there so many of you fucking everywhere? What is that about? I'm just gonna fucking retreat off in this direction. And hopefully they'll lose me. God damn them. Not Jamea's right, they've lost sight of me. That's the important thing. If I give them a wide berth. Maybe we'll be okay. Hold on, what I could do is try sort of distracting them, pulling them away. If I don't get stuck on things, that is. Go over there. Right, that pulls all them out. What I'm thinking we do is we sneak up on these guys, shoot them, get the piece, and then get out of here. If we can. If I can say they're coming over here, aren't they? Right, I'm just going for it. Fuck it. Oh, God, there's so many of them! Why are there so many of you? All in the... Ooh, fuck. Okay, this is where I could die. Jesus, give me up. No, that's not fair. You're pinning me down and shooting the shit out of me. There's my gun. Oh, I'm dead. I'm straight away dead. They didn't like my discussion about critical thinking, ladies and gentlemen, because they can't think for themselves. Fuck me. Why are there so many hunters around that one friggin' device piece? They all just spawn around there like a bunch of assholes. Alright, let me just jump cut. Alright, back in. Right, I just checked time. We've been going for just under 15 minutes so far, so I think that'll probably do for an episode. The thing is, I've kind of really spoken about what I wanted to speak about. Just sort of wanted to make a podcast-style episode on that subject, folks, since that video, like I say, that I saw, it just really made me shake my head, and was just like, what the fuck are these people in the comments on about? Good lord. But there you go, folks. Critical thinking. Learn it. It's a great skill to have in life. mainly because, like I say, it helps you freaking spot stupid bullshit on the internet and all that. Alright, Facebook and links down below, along with the link to my propagandist channel for anyone interested, and if you enjoyed, a like as it goes always appreciated and all that jazz. Well, now I'm signing off now. Goodbye, everybody. Oh! Go down. Whew. At least we've got machine guns on this thing. Christ. Ugh.
Humans go through that energy. Let's get started with the Russians. How's all hanging back there,
Christ.
Fire support on its way. All right, man. Send some rounds downtown.
Ugh. Christ.